Hello, everybody, and welcome to Right Here, Right Now, live Buffalo football talk presented by Forefathers Organics. I'm your host, Alex Brasky, here for the Batavia Daily and Livingston County News. Each week, we'll discuss Buffalo's favorite football team, along with all the comings and goings from Orchard Park, thanks to our friends at Forefathers Organics in Dansville.
Unlock the power of nature with Forefathers Organics, your premium CBD store. We offer the highest quality CBD and hemp products to liberate your mind, body, and soul, helping you live happy and free. Our mission is driven by excellence and transparency using cutting-edge scientific methods to combat stress and target issues at their source. From potent ingestible CBD to soothing topicals, all our products are USDA certified organic. Discover all natural wellness from farm to table. Visit forefathersorganics.com for more information.
All right, the Chargers and Texans have kicked off the postseason. Chargers currently leading Houston 6-0 in the Texans Invitational. I think Houston, every season that they've made the wild card round, they play this Saturday 4:30 slot, and that's continued this season. And the Chargers out to that 6-0 lead in this one. But the Bills game day just hours away in Orchard Park. The Broncos coming to town for a wild card matchup. And we're going to dive into a brief game preview here on the pod before welcoming in Benjamin Allbright, our guest here this evening, reporter for the Broncos flagship radio station. So excited for that conversation. And that'll give you a look from the Broncos side of things while we break things down really from both sides here on the podcast. For Bills Digest's most recent playoff edition, we broke the game down by analyzing what we believe will happen when the Bills pass, when the Bills run, when the Broncos pass, when the Broncos run, and then we take a little brief look into special teams as well. So why don't we get going with that? We'll begin with when the Bills pass, and I think this is going to be really the most critical element of this game. Buffalo's passing game is going to have to find a way to slow down this Denver pass rush, which has really been unbelievable this season. One of the top pass rushing units, if not the top pass rushing unit in the league this season. 4 players with 7+ sacks on the year, highlighted by linebacker Nick Bonito. He leads the team with 13.5 sacks. And the Broncos have been applying immense pressure throughout the season. Like I said, if the Bills hope to walk out with a win in this one, they got to slow down Bonito and others if they hope to have a chance to win this one. But a good news for the Bills, their offensive line has really been as good stopping opposing pass rushes as the Broncos have in rushing opposing passers. The Bills have allowed the fewest sacks in the NFL for the second consecutive season, and that's really a credit to offensive line coach Aaron Kromer and just this group overall, being able to filter into new positions, some of them with Connor McGovern shifting over to center. You have David Edwards, the new left guard this season after serving as the jumbo tight end last year. So some moving pieces along that front, and they've really figured things out in a big way. And Dion Dawkins spoke about Aaron Kromer's ability to relate to players on an individual level as something that's really helped them progress. And he says he doesn't want to play for any other offensive line coach in his career. Only 14 sacks allowed by the Bills this season. Like I said, that leads the NFL. So they're going to have to slow down this Broncos team, which I believe 60+ sacks on the season. So 4 players with over 7, 2 players with double-digit sacks. This is going to be a key element of this game if the Bills can slow down that Broncos pass rush. All right, when the Bills run the ball, I think this is somewhere you can exploit the Broncos defense. They've allowed 3 opposing rushers to go for 100+ yards this season, and it would have been a 4th, but Los Angeles Chargers running back J.K. Dobbins just missed going for 96 yards in week 6. So there's been a number of explosive individual performances for opposing rushers against the Broncos this season. And with James Cook performing the way that he is, I think there's no question the Bills' running game is going to be another key element of this game. James Cook finished last year with over 1,000 yards, and did so once again this year. But his ability to find the end zone has really been the difference for Cook this season. It's taken some pressure off Josh Allen, allowed him to become much more efficient And like I said, that offensive line, not only have they been able to assume a few new roles along that offensive front, they've been able to transform really the mentality of this unit, a much more physical unit, being able to win their one-on-one battles in the running game. And I give a lot of credit for that to David Edwards, his brute force and toughness in the running game. And then Connor McGovern, also just a bigger, more physical player at the center position. That's not to say Mitch Morse wasn't of value last year, but just a different type of player, more athletic. You look at him to pull, get off the edge, whereas Connor McGovern and David Edwards have really been mauling their defenders throughout the course of this season. So I think you look for James Cook to have a big game in this one. Maybe the Bills look to get their running backs involved in the passing game as well. You saw that against the Detroit Lions earlier this year with Ty Johnson. I think you could see that once again this week. And I think the Bills didn't really utilize the screen game a whole lot during the regular season. I think you could see them dial that up a bit during this game to take some pressure off that offensive line. And that's really another way to neutralize an opposing pass rush, get them rushing up the field and then dump it down on the screen to get them out of what they typically do. All right, now let's look at the other side of things. When the opponent runs, when the Denver Broncos run the ball, I think this is also advantage Bills, as the Broncos have not been one of the top rushing units in the league. They like to use their running backs more in the passing game, the short passing game, extension of the running game. Javonte Williams leads the way in terms of volume in that running game that averages 112.2 yards per game, really in the middle of the pack when it comes to the NFL ranks. Jaleel McLaughlin and Audric Estime rounds out a three-headed monster of sorts for the Broncos. I don't know if I'd necessarily call it a monster with the way that they've performed this season. Williams averaging just 3.7 yards per carry. McLaughlin's been the most effective of the bunch. He's averaging 4.4 yards per tote, while Estime 4.1 yards per attempt. Like I said, not a whole lot of production from this unit this season. The Bills have struggled to stop opposing running games in recent memory, including this season, Derrick Henry giving up that big run to him and a few other times this year. But they've also bulled their neck when they've needed to. A big game against the Detroit Lions. That was one of the top running games in the league, and they really had a good game against them. They introduced more 4-3 during that game. I think you might see that again here just to get Dorian Williams on the field a bit more, your leading tackler for this season. But I think if the Bills are going to win this game, they're going to have to do what they can do against this Denver running game. You can't let them become a two-dimensional offense. You got to try to make Bo Nix beat you in this game. And I think that's going to be pretty difficult for Bo Nix to beat the Bills when the opponent passes. I think if history tells us anything, the Broncos rookie quarterback, Bo Nix, could be in for a long day. Historically, Sean McDermott, 9-4 against rookie quarterbacks during the regular season and 2-0 against rookie quarterbacks during the postseason. 7 touchdowns against 17 interceptions in those 13 games in the regular season. And in the postseason, 3 touchdowns against 4 interceptions. So he's really had the secret sauce when it comes to stopping rookie quarterbacks. And although I've liked what I've seen in terms of Bo Nix's development throughout the course of this season, like I said, if history tells us anything, this Sean McDermott-led defense, albeit now the defensive coordinator is Bobby Babich, it is still a Sean McDermott defense. I think this defense could be in line for a big day against Bo Nix. But like I said, look for that short passing game to be an extension of the running game. Although Nix has been more apt to take shots down the field as the season has progressed, namely Marvin Mims is someone you're going to have to look for in that regard, a talented player that really provides the athleticism and speed, not only on the offensive side of the ball, but on special teams. And on special teams, I think the clear advantage goes to the Broncos here, not only in the return game with Marvin Mims. You have Brandon Codrington, who's not quite healthy for the Bills, dealing with that hamstring injury that has left him questionable entering this game. So if Codrington can't go, you look for Khalil Shakir to fill in at the punt return duties, and then Ty Johnson and Ray Davis to fill the kick return duties. And they're not going to provide what Codrington has provided this season. He's been in the top 5 in punt return average. He's allowed the Bills to be in the top 5 in terms of average starting field position. So that's going to be a little bit bigger of a loss than you think. Brandon Codrington, and then Marvin Mims, a Pro Bowl nod, an all-pro kick returner. Just an unbelievable talent, athleticism abound, and you have to look for him, like I said, on offense as well. He scored 2 touchdowns in each of the past 2 weeks offensively. He's really been inserted into this offense as a key piece. So keep an eye out for Marvin Mims. He could be a game breaker in this one. Elsewhere on special teams, Buffalo kicker Tyler Bass missed an extra point this past week against the Patriots. It's been a turbulent season for him. Seemed to figure things out with that game-winning 61-yard field goal earlier this year. He's missed a few more kicks as the season has progressed, but the Bills seem to trust him entering this postseason run. On the other side, Denver kicker Will Lutz. He's been one of the most consistent kickers in the league this season, converting over 91% of his attempts, including 5 of 7 from beyond 50 yards. So if this one comes down to a kick for Denver, that could spell trouble for the Bills, as Lutz has been near automatic this season. But Buffalo special teams, 1 goal entering this game, and you can't let Marvin Mims beat you. If he's able to return a kick for a touchdown, boy, that's not only going to get Matthew Smiley fired, that could lose the Bills the game in this one. I'll save my prediction for after our conversation with Benjamin Allbright of KOA, the Broncos flagship. Before we get there, we'd like to thank our sponsor once more for our Forefathers Organics in Dansville. At Forefathers Organics, their mission is to liberate, educate, and innovate with the highest quality CBD and hemp-derived products for your mind, body, and soul so you can live happy and free. Visit them at 87 Franklin Street in Dansville, online at forefathersorganics.com, or call them at 585-335-2223 to learn more about the products they offer. All right, without further ado, we welcome in Benjamin Allbright of KOA Radio, the Broncos flagship out there in Colorado. All right, here with Benjamin Allbright of KOA, the Broncos flagship, here to discuss the upcoming wild card matchup in Orchard Park. Bills a heavy favorite entering this game, but the Broncos a mighty strong defense, hoping to pull the upset this weekend. Benjamin, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you?
I'm doing well, getting through a busy week, as I'm sure you are as well. Wanted to start off this conversation with just some big picture stuff. What are the vibes in Denver? They break the playoff drought that they were experiencing, the Broncos. It may not have been the same situation as the Bills experienced when they broke their own playoff drought years ago. The Broncos did win a Super Bowl not too long ago. Von Miller reminded us of as much this week. But what are the vibes in Denver right now entering this game? The Bills are about a 9-point favorite. What are Broncos fans feeling having broken that drought and entering this game against the Bills?
I think the fan base is certainly elated that they made the playoffs. You know, I mean, the sports books had the Broncos at 5.5 wins this season. Obviously, they far surpassed that. You know, in a season in which this team was looking at it as, hey, we're breaking in a new quarterback and figuring things out, they wound up still making the playoffs. I think they feel like they're playing with house money at this point. I think the fan base feels like they've got a puncher's chance in this one, given that, you know, the Broncos beat the Bills last year in Monday Night Football there in Buffalo. I don't think anybody's, you know, outright saying, hey, look, we're going to beat them, but I think they've got a chance in this one. I think the fan base thinks they got a chance in it, and that's kind of how they're looking at it, playing with house money at this point.
Yeah, and you mentioned the turnaround, getting rid of Russell Wilson, bringing in Bo Nix in the draft, and really hitting the ground running. Sean Payton helping his progression and really expediting that as the season has gone along. What has Sean Payton done to really get this team to the playoffs so quickly during his tenure there in Denver?
Well, I think, you know, on the offensive side of the ball, I guess the development of Bo Nix, the selection and development of Bo Nix, you know, he was certainly jubilant about the selection there. They were very sold on Bo Nix from the get-go, and that was sort of their thing. The main turnaround for the Broncos this year comes from the defense. I mean, they were a bad defense for the first half of the season last year. They sort of picked it up in the second half, but that continued on into this season where they've been one of, if not the top defenses in the league, outside of a few games here late where both corners have been hurt. And so, you know, I think the biggest turnaround really has been defensively what they've been able to do. The offense isn't scoring that many more points than they were last year. If you look at the point totals and take the defensive scoring out of it. The reality is the scoring's about the same. It's just defensively they're shutting people down, and so that's the thing. Whether or not Riley Moss, who's a couple of games back from a knee issue and hasn't played the same since that injury, and Pat Surtain, who sprained his ankle in the Colts game and has been a little less than during that span as well. We've certainly seen teams take advantage of it. I mean, the Browns put up, what was it, 500 yards or whatever it was. Yeah. We've certainly seen teams, the Chargers and the Bengals come in and put up more yardage than normal. So that really is the question, whether the defense is still what it was at the beginning of the season. But I credit that is the main part of the turnaround.
All right, now moving to this matchup, talking about matchups within the matchup, I guess. How do you think this Broncos defense will try to slow Josh Allen and the Bills offense? The pass rush, obviously elite. Nick Bonito leading the charge in that regard. And then you mentioned Patrick Surtain. The Bills don't have a true bona fide number one wide receiver, so not that takes him out of the equation in any sense, but it does kind of limit his ability to shut down an opposing team's number one target, being that the Bills don't have one. But I guess beyond that, how do you think this defense is going to try to attack the Bills offense beyond just trying to get after Josh Allen?
Well, first of all, the Broncos don't really, Surtain doesn't really chase the number one anyway. They have a field boundary defense. He lines up on one side, Moss is on the other, and Jaquan McMillian is in the slot. And they just kind of go from there. Now, teams tend to line up their number one to that side, but I would say that Surtain probably covers the number one the receiver, 60-ish% of the time, but it's certainly not all the time. Doesn't shadow him all over the field or any of that kind of stuff. He stays mostly to his side. I think the way they'll defend him is use him on Shakir when he's on that side, or Dalton Kincaid when he's on that side, and just use him to try to shut down those two, take away those two. That's the two biggest, receiving threats you have, with all due respect to Amari Cooper and Curtis Samuel and Coleman and all those guys. Those really are the two, biggest threats, I would say. I think you're going to see pressure from, the front five. DJ Jones lines up at the nose. He'll rotate through when they use four-man fronts. But you're really going to see a lot of Zach Allen, John Franklin Myers, Nick Bonito and John Cooper coming after the passer. And the objective there is kind of a bit of a, I don't want to say a mush rush, but you want to kind of bring the pass rush in without breaking contain, allowing Josh to get outside and do what he does. That's where he's at his most dangerous. So, I don't think there's any special formula per se with what you guys do, because there's not a skill position player you really, really have to lock down. But you'd have to be cognizant of guys, like I said, Shakir and Kincaid, especially, and you can't let Cooper get in there over the top. So, I think you may see a few too high coverages, which is a coverage that they mostly avoid. It's mostly cover one and cover zero and cover three. You may see some too high stuff on occasion, specifically in deep type settings. But I think for the most part, you're going to see a lot of cover one in this game from the Broncos.
How have they been generating the pass rush this year? Have they been doing it with the blitz? Have they just been relying on the defensive line up front? How have they been generating such a successful pass rush? You mentioned the really change in the defense and that helping the Broncos make the playoffs this year. I think that's obviously been one of the biggest turnarounds for them within their pass rush.
Well, yeah, I think adding John Franklin Myers is a big part of that. It really does start up front with Franklin Myers and Zach Allen. Those guys wreak havoc. You're gonna have to double team each of them. DJ, when they're in a 34, DJ can play the nose. He'll command some of that as well. But it's using those two or three guys to tie up guys, and then allowing linebackers to kind of get where they need to go. They do blitz quite a bit, not as much as the Vikings, but they do blitz quite a bit, and they'll send linebackers to shoot the gaps. At times as well, you'll see less Cody Barton, but more Drew Sanders and Justin Strnad coming downhill in an effort to get after the quarterback sometimes. And then, of course, you got Bonito and Cooper on the outside. And, Coop is a little bit better at setting the edge, maybe not quite as good a pass rusher, where Bonito's kind of the opposite of that, a much better pass rusher, a little bit weaker setting the edge. But, those guys, they play those two-man games. You'll have Coop and Franklin Myers on the one side and Allen and Bonito on the other. And then they'll rotate rookie Jonah Ellis in there. Ellis had 5 sacks this year, along with Dondrea Tillman, who was a star in the spring league. And he had 5 sacks this year as well. So they'll rotate those guys through a little bit, but it'll mostly be you'll mostly see Bonito and Cooper on the outside, and then whatever linebacker is in, whether that's Strnad or Drew Sanders, shooting the gap.
Now, moving over to the offensive side of the ball, Bo Nix and this passing game, they really use that short passing game as an extension of the running game. Get the ball out quickly, try to take as much off his plate as they possibly can. Although as the season's gone along, he has showing a tendency to go downfield a bit more. Am I reading that correctly? Is that seemingly how they like to operate? Use that short passing game to set up those deep shots and then mix in the running game with that three-headed quote-unquote monster that they have over there?
Well, monster might be charitable given the lack of production out of the three, but yeah, a little bit of that. You'll see Javonte Williams a lot in the pass game with short passes, less so Wheels McLaughlin and Audrey Casabe. It mostly is a short game passing offense with deep shots in there. There's not a lot of mid game passing in this offense. There just isn't. And so, that's sort of what you're going to see. A lot of they just don't have an explosive tight end to be able to clear out the middle and get the mid game going. So that's it. It's get it out quick, no negative plays, keep the offense on schedule, that kind of stuff. And that really is where the offense is right now.
How about Cortland Sutton? Where's his rapport with Bo Nix at this time? I know that he's kind of been involved a little bit more as the season's gone along. What have been your evaluations of Sutton and how he's worked with Nix this season as the season's gone?
Oh, I mean, Sutton's a great receiver. I would say he's a top 20 receiver in this league. He's a great receiver. They've gotten more trust in each other as the season's gone along. And certainly he's getting his share of looks. I don't know that he's going to be here next year, but he's certainly making the most of it this year. I would say that the guy you got to watch out for would be Dansville, who's probably in line to replace Cortland Sutton next year and has really been sort of the guy they go to on third downs when they need a catch. He's by far their most efficient receiver in terms of targets and catches. And, he's really kind of sort of been the guy as far as that stuff goes. So, and then you've had the emergence of Marvin Mims over the last month. The coaching staff suddenly figured out, we've got this explosive guy we never used. Maybe we should start using him. And they have, and he's eaten up some of the target share that Troy Franklin, who was brutally bad all year, used to get. So you need to watch Sutton and Vele on the underneath stuff. And then vertically, you'll probably want to watch out for Marvin Mims.
All right. I think we have covered all bases here. I was going to ask you about Mims, but you covered it right there. Can I ask you for your prediction for this weekend's game, and maybe a little bit nuanced prediction here? What do you expect is going to happen? How do you expect the game to play out? High scoring, low scoring?
I think it'll be a lower scoring game. I would take the under on this one. I believe that it'll be close. I do believe the Broncos will cover. I don't think they're going to win. I think Buffalo wins a tight one, 24-20 on a game. It's probably tied going into the fourth quarter, or, that kind of very within a couple of points going into the fourth quarter. I just feel like Buffalo's going to have, a little bit of an edge, in being able to run the ball. And I think that's going to be a thing in this game where you're going to have to run the ball. You're going to take field goals at times. So 23-20, 24-20, maybe out to a 27-20 type game. But I think that's probably the ballpark for this game.
Yeah, if this one comes down to a Tyler Bass field goal, Bills fans will be holding their breath. I know Broncos fans are probably dying for it to come down to a Will Lutz field goal, the way that he's performed this season. But Benjamin, thank you for joining us. Do you have anything you'd like to plug? Any coverage coming up that Bills fans might want to check out over there on X or beyond?
You can follow me or unfollow me on Twitter at Allbright NFL. It's kind of a dumpster fire, but I always appreciate Bills fans and the mentions and love talking to them.
All right. Once again, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you down the road. All right. Sorry for that preemptive whoosh when I sat down to rejoin. My mouse clicked the whoosh button, but we'd like to thank Benjamin for joining us. I think he provided some good perspective on the Denver Broncos that we certainly don't have here in Buffalo, and that should allow Bills fans to get a better look at what to expect on Sunday from this wild card matchup. But like I said before, game day just hours away, and let me provide my prediction for this one before we get on out of here on Right Here, Right Now, live Buffalo football talk. Buffalo opened as an 8.5-point favorite over the Broncos per FanDuel Sportsbook. But this is a game I think might be a little bit closer for the first half. I think you might enter halftime, a one-possession game, but I think in the second half, the Bills should cruise. They should be able to figure things out, as they have oftentimes throughout this season, making those halftime adjustments with a better quarterback, a superior running game, and really just a more playoff-tested roster. Give me the Bills to earn an easy win over the Broncos, 28-24. 14. We'll see you on Sunday from Highmark Stadium. Excited for this one as the Bills try to kick off what they hope is a Super Bowl run. Like I said, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you on Sunday.